Welcome back to Recap Time. In a small town in Massachusetts, a boy lives with bandages and dark glasses to hide his face, because apparently he has a strange disease for which people die unexpectedly when they see his face. That's why today looks like it's killing. This is the story of a teenager named Max Richardson, who goes to therapy for a strange birth problem and is able to kill those who see him. His parents realized that their son was strange because when he was born, the first to die were the doctors who attended the birth, but to lead a quieter life, the whole family moved to a small town in Massachusetts called Blake, where little Max can go unnoticed to stop the inexplicable deaths. Max covers his face with bandages, dark glasses, and a cap, although this makes him a quite shy boy. During a visit to the doctor, he meets a girl named Alex, who suffers from a strange heart disease, but for now, it doesn't matter. We will talk about her again in a bit. Dan is Max's best friend and his parents try to arrange some dates for him because it's Valentine's Day, although for the bandaged boy who doesn't leave the house and has no friends, this is very difficult. Dan organizes some dates. They arrive with a girl named Erica, but everything goes very wrong because she thought her date would be with Dan and he leaves her alone with Max. Meanwhile, in the same restaurant, Valencia is there and believes that Max is like the bully of the town. During a discussion, she runs away from the place, but Greg becomes more bothered by his bandages and everything gets out of control when the restaurant manager has to intervene in the middle of the fight. The failed date makes Max very sad and he goes to a bridge to commit suicide, but that's when his ex-girlfriend appears. She tries to convince him not to do it and ends up telling him that if he jumps, she will too. After this, they go together to an old age home that they frequently visit and where Esther, a novelist with over 30 stories written, lives in his working on her most important book, which is not only an autobiography, but also tells the life story of someone with Alzheimer's. To make sure Max doesn't get hurt, Alex accompanies him home and invites him on a date the next day, but she says no. That night, Max tells everything to his friend Dan and he convinces him to look for her again on the same bridge and convince her to take a walk together. So the next day, he decides to go to the same place he meets Alex and they decide to go to a supermarket together to buy a lot of gummies to fill a bathtub and talk about Max's strange condition, which apparently has a face so attractive that it can kill everyone who sees it. But even the ex-girlfriend doesn't seem too surprised because everyone in the town knows about this strange condition. She also tells him how she has often been close to death because her heart is allergic to endorphins and it swells with every emotion she has, so she can't have many emotions. To control it, she carries with her a device that can measure her heart rate and the size of her heart. Alex takes Max to a strange cinema that hasn't premiered new movies in 5 years, but they buy wine to entertain themselves. After the movie, they end up in Max's room where to read a romantic scene where she manages to take off his dark glasses and see his eyes, but nothing happens. But everything is interrupted because his parents arrive with a strange surprise. It's a Korean exchange student named Newsin, whom his parents have sent to the US, but she doesn't want to be there. The next day, Max and Alex return to the old age home to visit Esther and meet Rosemary, a woman who was 82 years old and sitting alone at a table waiting for her son who promised to come with a cake to celebrate her birthday. Even though she has been waiting for a long time, everything indicates that this birthday was as lonely as all the others. During this conversation they realize the value of friendship, and although they are alone in that place, they have all become a very close family. But still all of this doesn't really matter right now. What matters is that when Max returns home he finds a surprise because his mother tells him that he has to take Luke camping with Alex, Dan, and his new date. Everything goes well until Alex cuts his hand with a branch that he finds in the woods, and to close the wound, Max takes off a piece of his bandages to stop the bleeding. But Alex realizes that he can now see a small part of Max's face and nothing happens during the night. The boys start a campfire and Max tells the story of his childhood and how his first kiss occurred during first grade and the girl promised not to see his face while they kissed, but due to curiosity, she opened her eyes to see the boy she was kissing and as expected, the girl died as soon as she saw what was hidden under the bandages. All of this makes Alex feel his heart race faster for Max when she asks him for a kiss, and to keep everything under control, she blindfolds herself so she won't see him. In the end, he ends up giving her a kiss on the cheek, and when they return home, Max's mother asks them to take out the Christmas tree, but it ends up catching on fire due to Julian, and the two burn their hands and end up in the hospital. The nurse tells them that with Cremord will be enough for the burns, but there they find Alex, who had told Max that he couldn't come because he had to stay at home helping his mother with some things. To distract his mother, Alex pretends that Max is just a co-worker at the nursing home but not friends because they work opposite shifts. Because of this strange behavior, Max tells his parents his feelings as they go to do some shopping at the supermarket, and he ends up saying that communication is the most important and that it would be best to talk soon with her. Later, they meet again on the bridge from which Max had tried to jump in. Alex explains that his mother doesn't let him have friends because she believes it's too dangerous and so many emotions could affect his heart. He doesn't understand because he thinks that with each medication it's enough to keep everything under control, but Alex's mother has developed an anxiety disorder that keeps her alert to any change in her daughter's feelings. Later, they decide to return to the nursing home to visit Esther, and they find out that Rosemary is very sick while she is kept alive artificially by the medical equipment she is connected to. And that's when Alex starts to bleed from his nose and leaves the room, so he doesn't worry Matt, but he catches him on the stairs and they discuss euthanasia and how Max should help Rosemary to rest. At the beginning, our protagonist refuses to do it because he thinks his face is a curse. They end up dying, but Alex convinces him to help Rosemary rest. He goes back to the room and asks her if she wants to help her sleep, and she smiles. Then, Max takes off his bandages, and when Rosemary sees his face, she dies immediately. After this, Alex disappears and doesn't answer messages from the others. Hess a little sad not knowing what happened to her, but he manages to invite her to the spring dance in the name of his friend, and she agrees. When they meet at Alex's house, he tells her the truth about his disappearance, and it's because his heart has grown and they have to increase his dosage. But to make Max not feel guilty, she tells him that she doesn't want him to leave because she's afraid of being alone in the bubble where she's always lived. Max feels a little guilty for her health, but they agree to go to the dance, and she appears at his house dressed as a maid, and he's wearing a dog mask. During the dance, Alex lets himself be carried away by his feelings and they both end up embracing. But this accelerates Alex's heart too much and she has to go to the bathroom because her nose is bleeding again. Meanwhile, Greg, the bully who used to bother Max for his face, appears and takes off his mask, and Valencia, Dan's girlfriend, sees his face so she dies in seconds. The police arrive and Max is arrested. After leaving prison, he goes straight to see her and realizes that her heart is much worse and she may not have much time left. But when he asks her about her medication, he realizes that it's only for acid reflux and discovers that Alex is not taking her medication because she wants to end her suffering. She tries to explain to him that since childhood she is condemned to die at any moment, and that way of living taught her not to have purpose and be indifferent to everyone, but that changed when she met Max because she discovered her feelings when she met him. She knows that Max's condition has a purpose and she asks him to help her die, but he doesn't want to do it because he knows he will feel remorse if she dies after seeing him. At home, Max starts hurting his face because he thinks it's a curse to have such an attractive face that is capable of killing people. But his parents stop him. Meanwhile, the ex tries to call him and doesn't get an answer, and it's because Max is not ready to let her go. But Max and Dan meet at school where Teresa photo at Valencia to say goodbye to his friend Telson. The best thing is that they'll be together in the hospital when she dies. He decides to go see her at the hospital and sees that her illness has advanced a lot in the time that he didn't visit her. While she tells him that she's very tired trying to stay alive in a hospital bed, he understands her suffering and that she'll be better when she's free of pain. He asks her to close her eyes to show him her face, but after taking off the bandages, she opens her eyes and they give each other a last kiss. She understands that Dan's face is not a disaster and tells him that his face looks a lot like how he really is. After a few days, Alex dies when Max returns to the bridge where she rescued him and decides to go back to therapy to overcome his grief. However, they realize that they are receiving many letters from all over because the case of Valencia became news, and although some wrote to him out of curiosity about his face, others wanted him to help them as he did with Alex. After all the suffering in his life, he understood that his face has a purpose and it is to help in the pain of people. Gradually, he starts to pick up his life again and goes frequently to the nursing home to visit Esther, who does not remember well what happened with Alex and always asks about her, while Max has to tell her that she is busy in a plagiarism lawsuit against Danielle Steele, which makes Esther feel very good. Max's parents now have a more stable and close relationship, and everything in his life is improving little by little, thanks to therapy and the memory of Alex. So he has decided that he will try to live without the bandages on his face. This was Looks That Kill. Don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on the bell to not miss the next videos.